Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special weekend edition on the 30th day of October. Today, well, first of all, let's begin with the weather news because we talked about Benio Diwali and we had Raj Neil here in the studios talking to us about that. Well, the top news is that is now being shifted to the Earnshaw College, which is just up the road from Benio Beehive Stand. So why is that? Because of the forecast for rest of Saturday, maximum 33 degrees, showers and storm likely. Possible rain 6 to 20 millimeters, chance of rain is 90%. So that is the reason why the Benio Diwali has been shifted from the park to Earnshaw College. So partly cloudy, high 80% chance of showers, most likely in the late morning and afternoon. A thunderstorm likely from late this morning, possibly severe. Winds westerly 15 to 20 kilometers, shifting east to southeasterly 15 to 25 kilometers early in the afternoon. That is the reason for the change, and of course maximum will be 33. At the moment it is 27 degrees, sunny and looking beautiful out there at the moment, but weather is weather and it can change at any time, and hence the move to shift Diwali from the Benio Diwali from the outdoor park into the Earnshaw College, which is, I believe, a good move because you can never be too careful. Well, today we will talk about that a little bit later on. I'll see if I can get one of the reps on the line to talk us about why and how this change is going to happen. But right now, let's move on with the news. Hey, the big news you all might have heard, Facebook is changing its name to Meta. And there you have it. And Facebook's name will be changed to Meta. Well, right now, moving on, let's take a look at what's happening with the COVID news. Here's Brett Sutton.
As we open up, we'll get an increase in cases. That will bring a few more people into hospital and a few more people into ICU. So I think we're, as you say, on a somewhat stable trend at the moment. But it could pick up again. I think the modelling is reassuring in as much as it says it doesn't get to, the 300, 400 mark. That would be enormously challenging for our ICU and hospital systems. If we can keep it below 200, even as we open up, that would be terrific. Again, we shouldn't set that aside as not being challenging for healthcare workers. That's a really substantial, it's more than a third of our normal ICU capacity to be able to deal with the numbers we're dealing with now. So a lot of hard work still going on in our hospital system. Again, I would hope that hospitalisation can stay below 1,000 as we've maintained up to this point in time. A lot of that still depends on what we do in coming weeks. If we can get, 1% of our state population stepping up for vaccines every day, second dose, we'll get to that 90% double dose coverage earlier, and that'll protect our hospital system. And that first dose coverage, it's fantastic to be at 92%, but I'm concerned that there are still 3, 4, 5, for some age cohorts, even more, not yet vaccinated. You will encounter COVID and the virus will make you pretty unwell if you're in that over 50 age category, and if you're over 80, very high risk of hospitalisation. So for those few percent who still haven't received a dose, that concerns me, and I would absolutely encourage those individuals to have that conversation with their GP, with their nurse immuniser or pharmacist.
And do that sooner than later. Having that conversation is very, very important. Well, right on, moving on, we'll go to the next news, which is, again, in Victoria, the damaging winds that have happened there. There's so much footage out there, but I've picked out this one here for all of you to have a look. As you can see, the complete roof blown of that apartment complex. And there are devastating scenes from all around the area. There have been trampolines flying in the air, which have been airborne, roofs flying off, and so much that's happened, so much devastation that's taken place. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Australian Indian Radio's weekend edition on this 30th day of October 2021. 27 degrees and sunny here in Brisbane. Looking at those kind of storms is why Benio Diwali has been now shifted from the park to Ensor College. We'll talk about that as we go along as well. Now, of course, Prime Minister is away to that meeting, and we have had a fall-in with France. So how do we mend that? Well, finally, the silence has been broken, and both the Prime Ministers have spoken via phone.
Emmanuel Macron's telephone call to Scott Morrison had the timing of a torpedo. News of the conversation broke as the Prime Minister's plane worked its way across Australia on its way to the G20 summit in Rome. It's weeks since Australia sank a $90 billion submarine contract with France. But judging by the tone of the conversation, at least according to a readout from the Elysee Palace, the French president's fury has not cooled. President Macron told the Prime Minister that Australia's unilateral decision to break the contract broke the relationship of trust between our two countries. The President says Australia must propose tangible actions to redefine the bilateral relationship, as well as the two nations' cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. Tellingly, given the Prime Minister's already on the defensive over his government's climate change commitments, the President says he encouraged Mr Morrison to adopt emission reduction measures commensurate with the climate challenge and cease production and consumption of coal. This is a deliberate strike by the French President on the PM's carbon credentials on the eve of next week's climate change talks in Glasgow. Mr Morrison's office says the Prime Minister was pleased to speak to the French President, but it's already clear that there's a lot of work needed to heal the relationship. $90 billion worth of repair.
And that's a lot of repair that's needed there, going by the term of that. And of course, the minister was questioned by a journalist, where the journalist claimed that, he wanted to see the plan or get an indication of when the plan would be, made available to everyone. And the minister said the plan would be made available to everyone at an appropriate time. But the journalist kept asking that, the plan lacks details, and the minister who did hold back and said that, the plan has got all the ingredients and that it has been very well laid out. Well, right now, when we look at the Electoral Commission and the way things are going now, Indigenous leaders don't like the proposed voter identification system.
At Australian elections, anyone can show up to vote anywhere and not need to provide identification. That could be about to change.
It's definitely racist, and it's very discriminatory to all Indigenous people from remote parts of communities where I come from.
West Arnhem Mayor Matthew Ryan is already taking the Australian Electoral Commission to the Human Rights Commission due to the low number of Indigenous people on the electoral roll. He says the new bill could make Indigenous voter turnout even worse.
It sets us right back, and it is outrageous.
The Electoral Commissioner has described the issue of voter fraud in Australia as vanishingly small, and Indigenous leaders are asking what evidence the government has it's an issue.
It's just adding another burden there for Aboriginal people in terms of getting on the roll, but also, in terms of voter turnout. It's unnecessary.
The chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Electoral Matters says Australians need to show ID to enter a surf club, but not to vote.
If someone is homeless, or especially for remote Indigenous voters or other disadvantaged persons, a local health or welfare service person can vouch for the identity of the person. No one's going to be excluded from voting
But the territory's Labor politicians say that's exactly what it's supposed to do.
It's racist, it's discriminatory, and it's all about suppression.
This is about Prime Minister Morrison wanting to keep power and stay in government, and he'll do it at any cost, and that means demolishing democracy.
Getting Indigenous people on the electoral roll has been a problem for decades, and even when that happens, voter turnout is still an issue. The vast outback seat of Lingiari has one of the lowest turnouts in Australia. At the last election, just 72% of people cast their ballot. Stephen Schubert, ABC News.
So what do you think? What do you think? Do you think that voter identification is called for? Or when people go in, call out their names and verify where they're from and cross their name off the list there, that is enough as it has been up till now. So, do you think this move is correct? Is it right? Is it timely? Is it called for? Well, time will tell. Well, right now it's time to get a message from our sponsors.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the well, and don't forget that every Wednesday we get a report, and he is a part of this week's report.
Only, and then look at Adelaide, 207 compared to last year was only 60. Perth was 23 this year. Last year was 15. Tasmania was 2 and 2. Canberra was 126 this year, and last year was 94. So the total auctions, as we discussed before, was 3,033 compared to last year was 1,427.
So once again, as I mentioned about the 50% mark there, and it is remarkable to see those kind of results. And as you have mentioned before, Brisbane did stand out there, getting up to that mark because Brisbane normally was not a very high auction rate area. So so if you look at those auction stats, let's take at the clearance rate throughout the capital cities.
Yes, let's have a quick look at Sydney market. Total auction was 973 and the total cleared sales under the HEMA was 692 and Melbourne was 1,474 and 1,005 were sold under the HEMA. Brisbane.
So that report comes to you every Wednesday, so don't forget to tune in on Wednesday at 10 a.m. for the weekly real estate update. So apart from the real estate update, we also have the travel update that comes to you via Oz India Travel and Tanvi Goyal. So, as in this time, when the borders are opening and things are like, we provide you an update of what's available at this point in time, what are the rules and regulations and what paperwork's needed, and all that comes in. Here's a glimpse of what happens on the Thursday report of the weekly travel updates.
Recently is announcement about airport student deals. So a new partnership between Western Sydney Airport and CSIRO is inviting all the high school students to visit airport construction site and potentially prepare for a career in a major air hub when it opens in 2026. So once operational, at least half of all the jobs at the airport will go to the Western Sydney locals across role types like education, manufacturing, engineering, defense, so many others. So I think it's really amazing initiative to call all the high school students and encourage them to go in the travel industry. So That's really amazing as well. Other than that, guys, if you looking for any tours, you can jump on our website as well, which is www.ausindiatravel.com.au under Australian tours section. It's just not you have to buy from there, but if you're looking to fly in future as well, for any single city, any city in Australia or New Zealand, you can always jump on our website and you can get the details, specific details about your tour, even you're planning to fly in future as well, and get an idea how you have to really plan your journey domestically. This is
how to plan your journey and all that. So there's lots of other interviews that happen during the weeks as well. So our format is mainly daily news at 9, and this special reports, the real estate travel updates and other like Aapki Sehat, which is the health one, and the legal part from Maurice Blackburn. All those ones take place at 10 a.m. during the weekdays. So, there's so much that comes your way via Australian Indian radio. Well, right now it's time to go to India and get the news on Daily India Report with Ankita.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi starts a big visit to Italy, the first in 12 years by an Indian premier. He will meet with Pope Francis at the Vatican, have a host of major bilateral summits on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Italy. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Rome for the G20 summit. It is the first visit to the country by an Indian Prime Minister in almost 12 years. Bilateral relations had strained when Italian Marines had shot dead 2 Indian fishermen in 2012. After 9 years, the families got a compensation of 100 million rupees. Modi's visit to Rome assumes further significance as Modi is to call on Pope Francis at the Vatican before the G20 summit. Modi landed in Rome in the morning of 29th October. Hours after reaching Rome, Modi visited the Gandhi statue and later held a bilateral meeting with Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi. Modi said that in Rome he will hold discussions on global economic and health recovery from the pandemic. Modi will be in Italy October 29 to 31st and later travel to the UK. Modi will have a host of bilateral meetings during his visit to Italy for the G20 summit and Glasgow Climate Change Conference in Glasgow.
With regard to bilaterals, let me say that besides the ones that I've mentioned, we are also looking at meeting the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince who will be there. That is the past president, Saudi Arabia, as you know, is the past president, immediate past president of G20. We will be meeting the next president of the G20, which is the Indonesian presidency and the president of Indonesia. There are a very large number of bilaterals that are still being worked out. I will not be able to give you the details now, but I think at the venue and before the bilaterals, we will certainly provide a list of those that have been firmed up. But I think you have to keep in mind, as I said, that there is scope for a number of meetings which are in the margins and within the conferences themselves.
The first focus of the visit is PM's meeting with the Pope and Secretary of State of Vatican City, His Eminence Cardinal Pietro Parolin, on 30th October. Ambassador Shringla said in Delhi that the meeting with the Pope is an important meeting. Modi's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party is seen as a right-wing Hindu party. Calling on the Pope and discussions is seen to create a positive perception and dispel notions. Significantly, Modi will also meet German Chancellor Angela Merkel, an important meeting giving her tenure as the leader of her country comes to an end. In Glasgow, UK, PM Modi will talk on the need to comprehensively address climate change issues, including equitable distribution of carbon space. Before travelling, Modi said the G20 will take stock of the current global situation and exchange ideas on how the grouping can be an engine for strengthening economic resilience and building back inclusively and sustainably after the pandemic. Good news for Indian workers and travellers to Oman. India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, Covaxin, has been included in the approved vaccine list by Oman. Indian vaccine manufacturer Bharat Biotech's Covaxin has been included in the approved list of COVID-19 vaccines for travel to Oman without quarantine. In a tweet, Bharat Biotech noted, quote, Covaxin has now been added to the approved list of #COVID-19 vaccines for travel to Oman without quarantine. This will facilitate travelers from India vaccinated with Covaxin. End quote. A press release issued by the Embassy of India in the Omani capital of Muscat said, quote, Embassy of India, Muscat, is pleased to inform that the government of the Sultanate of Oman has added Covaxin to the approved list of COVID-19 vaccines for travel to Oman. The Civil Aviation Authority issued a notification on 27th October regarding this. End quote. All travellers from India who have received 2 doses of Covaxin at least 14 days before the estimated arrival date will now be able to travel to Oman without the requirement of quarantine. All other COVID-19 related requirements or conditions such as pre-arrival RT-PCR tests shall be applicable for such passengers, the release stated. This notification will significantly ease travel to Oman for Indian nationals who have taken Covaxin. Passengers who have taken AstraZeneca or Covishield are already permitted to travel to Oman without quarantine. Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasizes a strong role for ASEAN members in India's vision for the Indo-Pacific. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 28 October addressed the 18th ASEAN-India Summit virtually. He touched upon key issues including the COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine strategy, and stressed how ASEAN members play an important role in India's vision for the Indo-Pacific. Modi said that 2022 will mark 30 years of India's partnership with ASEAN as India attains 75 years of its independence. Modi said the year will be celebrated as ASEAN-India Friendship Year. Modi stressed that the unity and centrality of ASEAN has always been a priority for India. Modi emphasized that COVID-19 has put unprecedented challenges before nations testing the India-ASEAN friendship.
कोविड-19 महामारी के कारण हम सभी को अनेक चुनौतियों से जूझना पड़ा, लेकिन यह चुनौतीपूर्ण समय भारत आसियान मित्रता की कसौटी भी रहा। कोविड के काल में हमारा आपसी सहयोग, आपसी संवेदना भविष्य में हमारे संबंधों का बल देते रहेंगे।
Ministry of External Affairs Secretary Riva Ganguly Das said Modi has invited the ASEAN members to join the Indo-Pacific initiative. The adoption of the joint statement of ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific and India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative is one very major highlights of this summit. The joint statement charts the way forward for practical implementation of the convergence in a vision of Indo-Pacific. Das said summit leaders did discuss the Afghanistan situation and Modi asked for a zero tolerance to terrorism. The Indian official said a series of activities will be conducted to commemorate the 30 years of the ASEAN-India partnership. India is becoming a preferred destination for non-IT outsourcing. We have a report. India has been known to be a preferred destination for outsourcing of IT-related projects in the West. Now, India is gaining prominence even for non-IT roles such as HR and payroll management, digital and social media marketing. Several international firms are hiring Indian talent without setting up an office in the country. India is among the most preferred destinations for offshore outsourcing due to the availability of a global standard skilled talent pool at reasonable costs. India is already the IT outsourcing hub of the world, with some 4.5 million professionals working on IT services projects for technology multinationals. India has honed and scaled the IT capability over 25 years now. Indian IT talent has developed from being merely a back-end processing center to building highly skilled R&D centers. The factors that favored this boom, a large pool of skilled and English-speaking talent available for reasonable wages, may also work in favor of other profiles. Also, the COVID-19 pandemic experience has especially opened up remote work opportunities, which the Indian workforce can cash in on. The companies in the US don't mind people working from India. Recruiters are requested to help hire Indians as employees and consultants and get them infrastructure like bandwidth and IT assets. Work from home trend has made the arrangement more feasible, at least for the short term. It is expected that in the next couple of years, offshore development model will expand tremendously as it saves costs. The United Arab Emirates is looking forward to using India's low-cost launch vehicles developed by ISRO for deploying small satellites.
India's prowess in the field of space programs has grown by leaps and bounds in the last decade. Now the United Arab Emirates is looking forward to using low-cost launch vehicles developed by the Indian Space and Research Organization for placing small satellites. Talking to the media, Sara Al-Amiri, Minister of State for Advanced Technology and Chairperson of UAE Space Agency, said that the two nations are looking at a wide variety of scientific cooperation in the space sector. He said, quote, "We spoke during the International Astronautical Congress with ISRO, looking at different aspects that are important to both countries. ISRO provides a low-cost launch capacity that we would like to explore for smaller satellites launching out of UAE," end quote. India has been known worldwide for its cost-effective missions to Moon and Mars and its success ratio in launching satellites with its indigenous launch vehicles. India is part of the IAC and at the ongoing Dubai Expo and has showcased its launch capability and its progress in the maiden manned mission Gaganyaan. The two countries are expected to exchange data from a scientific point of view, Earth observation, farming and climate change. Meanwhile, scientists from India can access data from the Emirates Mars mission, she added.
Bollywood fans can look forward to a cool rom-com. Rajkumar Rao and Kriti Sanon star in Hum Do Hamare Do that released digitally on 29th October. Bollywood's latest flick Hum Do Hamare Do starring Kriti Sanon and Rajkumar Rao premiered on Disney Plus Hotstar on 29th October. Directed by Abhishek Jain, the film is about a love story between an entrepreneur Dhruv Shikhar and blogger Anya Mehra. A chance meeting of the two at the launch of his virtual reality app leads to them falling in love. However, her wish of getting married to someone with a sweet family and a cute doggy sends Dhruv on the quest to find the right parents. Dhruv decides to seek help from Purushottam Mishra, at whose dhaba he worked as a child. Purushottam's college love Dipti Kashyap is asked and she agrees to play Dhruv's mother and Purushottam nods to play his father. One learns that at one time Purushottam and Deepti were to elope, but Deepti had developed cold feet. Rajkumar Rao delivers yet another earnest performance and proves why he is beyond the box office. Kriti Sanon is effective and does justice to a part as Anya. Paresh Rawal and Ratna Pathak Shah remain in the fine form. The film's soundtrack by Sachin Jigar is hummable and supports the narrative. The film drives a point that Indian families portray a happy and united image outside but squabble and fight within. Overall, Hum Do Hamare Do is a decent watch. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
And thank you very much, Ankita. As we know, this news comes to you from the Gupta family, whom we have been closely associated for a long, long time. Manish Gupta, Kayan Gupta ji, and our association through GoPio and through the PIO Chamber of Commerce and the network, and they run the PIO TV, and they produce this daily India report for us and send it over every day. Well, right now we are here in Brisbane, and of course, as I mentioned before, that the weather today is a bit unpredictable. Well, it has been predicted to have thunderstorms late in the afternoon. Hence, that has resulted in the change of venue for Benyo Diwali. Benyo Diwali, which was going to be at the Beehive stand, is now shifted to the Enso College undercover just to protect everyone in case of severe weather, which might or which might not happen, even though it is predicted to be severe storms later this afternoon. And it is supposed to get up to 33 degrees. Right now it is 27 degrees and sunny in beautiful Brisbane, from where we are sending. So talking about Brisbane, so how did we end up here? We came here in the 1980s. Here's a glimpse of our first ever puja in Brisbane in the 1980s.
माता जी पिताजी और खुशी है उषा कुमार भी यहाँ हैं आज और उनका भी स्वागत करते हैं बिल्कुल वालों की ओर से। और हमारे भाई जो कुछ नए यहाँ आए हैं, शायद सबका नाम मुझे अच्छे से याद नहीं है, क्षमा करेंगे, हम सबका स्वागत करते हैं इस पूजा में। और खुशी इस बात की है आज की दुनिया में नौजवान लोग और बूढ़े लोग भी मानव मात्र कहेंगे तो अच्छा होगा, अपने अपने ढंग से अपना अपना काम रखते हैं, परंतु जो जन्मजात संस्कार है प्राणी का वो कभी खाली नहीं जाता। तुलसीदास जी बड़े अच्छे से।
So there you go. That's our little humble beginning right here in the 1980s in Brisbane, our first official puja at our place. Well, right now it's time to say goodbye from this segment. We'll see you back on Monday with the two segments, the 9 a.m. news and the 10 o'clock special presentation at that time. And don't forget that our weekly shows are the real estate update with Usha Chandra on Wednesdays, and of course on Thursdays we have the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal, and we have Aapki Sehat, which is a presentation of the Indian Medical Association of Queensland, and of course we have the legal updates from Maurice Blackburn with Giri Sivaraman. And our next music junction, the last music junction, Navratri special, went very well, and thanks everyone for the wonderful comments and the response that we got. The next one on planning is the Diwali special, so look out for that. Until Monday, it's goodbye from me. Remain safe and have a happy weekend.